Have you ever wondered what a man truly gives when he is intimate with someone? It is not merely the body, nor is it skill or performance. What he offers, often without even realizing it, is his soul, a soul that is hungry for validation, craving affection, and above all, yearning to be chosen. Yet this offering often hides beneath the guise of desire, lust, even banality. It is not just skin touching skin, but a deeper current, a silent energy flowing beneath the surface. Because at the core, a man's true longing is not for lust. It is to be seen, understood, and fully recognized, even in the broken pieces within him. Men who kneel before a woman's body are not merely seeking physical pleasure. They are longing for the emotional closeness they have never been granted. The body acts as a veil, but in essence, it is the voice of the soul. Desire may seem like instinct, but in truth, it is a profound emptiness disguised as power. When true intimacy exists, it dismantles all performances and reveals the vulnerability hidden beneath a person's armor. And it is precisely in this moment that Carl Jung's psychology fully unfolds. The body as a prophecy, the shadow as a reflective mirror, visible only to those courageous enough to pierce the mask and embrace the sharp truth. Carl Jung never regarded desire as something arising solely from pure instinct. For him, intimacy is the bridge connecting the conscious and the unconscious. He once said, "Every intimate act reveals more than it expresses." Desire is not born from the body, but from the soul. Every movement, every impulse originates from the depths of the subconscious, where our true stories begin. Sex is not merely a physical exchange, it is an exchange of energy, darkness, and profound intention between two human beings. But when a woman enters your life with distortion, what should have been pleasure turns into complete exhaustion. Physical, emotional, and spiritual. In this video, you will understand why many men experience a sense of emptiness after each intimacy, and why that fatigue does not come from the body, but from the soul. Each time you give your body without true presence, without spiritual connection, you are trading fragments of yourself for mere scraps of validation. A woman's body is a sacred temple, but so is your body. When these two temples meet without awareness, a chaotic energy is born. You are not merely having sex, you are opening a gateway. And not every gateway leads to safety. As this journey unfolds, you will begin to recognize what has always existed within you, but no one has ever taught you how to decode. A man who truly surrenders in intimacy does not only reveal his body, but also exposes the deepest parts of his soul. The fear of rejection, insecurities hidden behind a strong exterior, silences carrying an unspoken past. True intimacy is not just about sex, but about the nakedness within. For in the gaze, in the moments of touch, the invisible child inside him awakens. That child longs only to be loved without having to trade or prove anything. This is far scarier than physical exposure. How many men, in that true moment, collapse inside while still trying to keep a tough facade? The mask of strength does not fall with a shout, but melts silently. A small touch can evoke the echoes of abandoned loneliness. A simple gesture can reveal emotional scars he has never learned to express. Jung once said that the subconscious always speaks, and in intimacy, it screams. The body becomes a stage for the soul to perform hidden pain, which is why many men choose to withdraw when closeness becomes unbearable. Because facing intimacy is facing the emotional mirror of oneself. Not everyone is ready to look straight into their true self. The collapse of masculine strength does not begin with a major crisis, but with a subtle touch slipping through the cracks of the protective armor. When that happens, a part inside him begins to awaken. But that is only the beginning. Most men grow up believing that giving pleasure is merely a technique, a performance to impress, to prove their worthiness. Yet, true desire, the connection that can touch the soul, is far deeper. Giving pleasure can be a sacred ritual, a way to reach the deep parts of yourself long forgotten. Because deep within every man, there exists a soft, vulnerable part. The part society teaches him to hide. Jung called this the feminine within the man. And paradoxically, when a man truly surrenders in intimacy, he not only touches the woman's body, but also the depths within himself. Sacred pleasure does not come from control, but from full presence. When the body becomes a prophet, an emotional mirror where he sees himself no longer wearing a mask, then in the ritual of that touch, something is awakened, something no performance can fake. That is when desire transcends the limits of the flesh and becomes the call of the soul. Sex becomes a ritual that begins not from the body, but from deep within the soul. Everything starts with listening with the soul, not with words. It is allowing the sensitive part long denied within to awaken again. At that moment, it is no longer about proving anything to anyone, but reconnecting with the true self behind the fractured armor. And then, pleasure is no longer just pleasure, but a profound healing process. However, for many men, this step still holds great danger. Many say they crave love, but deep inside, what they truly thirst for is unconditional acceptance. Desire does not merely arise from the need to connect with others, but also from deep deficits caused by ancestral absence, a desperate longing to be chosen, to be acknowledged. In every relationship, the child within the man waits for an affirmation. I see you. You are worthy. And that is the beginning of the trap. When the thirst for love exceeds the ability to love oneself, the man begins to lose himself. He bends to expectations, sacrificing his soul for patched scraps of acceptance. Have you ever seen such a man? Someone who does everything, always shows up, always kind, yet is overlooked. Not because he is wrong, but because he is stuck in an emotional loop. That excessive kindness is actually pain wearing the mask of virtue. He is not truly loving, but begging for affection through the language of performance. And at that moment, darkness begins to cast its deepest shadow over his soul. He waits for someone else to save him, to free him from the lack of self-love. But that never happens. To move beyond this stage requires the courage to look inward and ask yourself, what am I trying to prove? For many, efforts to be the perfect partner are merely reflections of a fractured self-esteem denied and unacknowledged. When a man recognizes this truth, he begins to dismantle the stage of performance and move closer to the pure presence of his true self. The inner part of him does not need to be perfect to be loved, but to reach that point, he must confront the inner darkness, the deeply wounded, rejected ego. And in that moment, the game changes completely. Carl Jung once wrote a piercing truth. What you do not make conscious will appear in your life as fate. And that is precisely what happens to many men. They believe they are making free choices, but in reality, they are merely reenacting unhealed wounds. This darkness takes control of their lives unbeknownst to them, turning every relationship into a repetitive cycle of old injuries, a vicious circle without escape. That is also why intimacy sometimes feels like an emotional minefield, not because the other person is toxic, but because the wounds inside remain open. The man wears a mask of strength on the outside, but is collapsing inside, seeking from others a way out of the unhealed emptiness. In this inner battle, the body can become either a fortress or a bridge. It all depends on how he perceives emotional nakedness, as a threat or as an opportunity for healing. Darkness is not something to be hated, but the part we hide from ourselves. The fear of vulnerability, the panic of rejection, the invisible thirst for acceptance, all exist in the unconscious, waiting for the moment to erupt. And it often erupts in touches that awaken memories, in the emotional mirror of intimacy, in choices that seem coincidental, but are not. Every man at some point projects onto a woman the unexplored parts of himself, the unconscious, turning her into everything in his inner world: lover, mother, soulmate, savior. But the problem does not lie in love itself, but in the expectation that another will fill the inner void within you. That is not true love. It is the shadow's projection, an ancestral wound left behind, an obsessive desire never fulfilled. And that projection almost always leads to disappointment. Because when you place someone on a pedestal, you do not see them as they truly are, but only see the reflection of the wounded soul within yourself. That idealization becomes an emotional prison. Just one small mistake, and that castle crumbles. The man who once revered greatness in the other now grows contemptuous. Desire turns into resentment. All because he tries to find outside what needs awakening within himself. The sleeping beast, the denied sensitivity, the deep presence within the soul. On the journey toward wholeness, many men lose their way. They confuse intensity with love, lack with connection, and presence with salvation. But no woman, no matter how wonderful, can become a perfect mirror for a man who has never truly met himself. The emotional mirror begins from within each person. To dare to look directly at that naked reflection requires great courage, something most men often lack. Yet it is precisely that courage that opens the door to move forward. Most men spend their whole lives waiting to be recognized, a compliment, a choice, a gentle touch saying, "You are enough." But the truth, however painful, is that external recognition never lasts. Everything external will eventually fade away. True healing begins at the moment a man realizes that he no longer needs to beg for affection, that the thirst to be chosen can only be quenched when he chooses himself first. Self-awareness is not mere theory, but a living practice. Looking inward with pure presence, listening to unspoken voices, facing the existential void without running away. It is in the breaking and wounding of the soul that the awakening of the masculine ego begins. Intimacy is no longer a performance but becomes a mirror reflecting the truth. Desire, when born from within, is not a plea but a gentle invitation, an expression of the soul. That is the moment when sex becomes a sacred ritual, no longer avoidance but a return, where pleasure does not arise from emptiness but from inner fullness, where the inner shadow becomes a prophecy and silence transforms into wisdom. But to reach that place, a man must break free from the prison of the false ego and gradually remove his masks of strength. On that journey, he rediscovers what the world has tried to bury, the raw human essence of himself. Not every woman deserves access to your body, let alone your energy. Sex without consciousness becomes an open channel for draining your life force, often without your awareness. Some women carry emotional wounds, addicted to drama and disconnected from themselves, harboring a deep void. When you merge with that void, the most sacred parts of you, clarity, strength, guidance, are swallowed whole. You leave the encounter emptier than before, mistaking it for pleasure. All the wounds, emotional addictions, and unconscious burdens she carries are imprinted in her body. Sex is the gateway through which those energies invade your life uninvited. You do not merely touch her body, but merge with her unresolved traumas and demons. Without awareness, that merging becomes contamination. You begin to feel tired, numb, confused, without understanding why. This kind of intimacy is an invisible exchange, but its destructive power is immense. You might have physical strength, fake confidence, or wise sayings on social media, but if you keep opening your heart to those living in chaos, it will do you no good. You need consciousness about energy, presence, and a new pattern of choice. Because as long as you keep giving yourself to anyone just to fill emptiness, your soul will be forever wounded. And one day, that soul may never return from where it was taken. Be honest with yourself. How many times have you given yourself thinking it was desire, but left feeling lost? How many times have you mistaken pleasure for connection, giving your energy to someone who does not know how to care for themselves? The answer may hurt you, but it can also set you free. Because from this moment on, you can no longer claim ignorance. You have understood that sex is not a game but a ritual. The body is a prophecy. And every intimate choice you make will either rebuild you or bury you deeper into the inner abyss. Now, the choice is in your hands. Continue giving your all to someone who only wants a part of you, or demand a level of consciousness worthy of your soul. If the words shared in this video have touched the depths within you, please take a moment to leave a comment about the moment that spoke for your soul. And if this message truly resonates with you, kindly share it with the men who are still asleep in unconsciousness. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mind and Meaning channel to accompany us on a journey of discovery, not just about sex, but about the truth of your authentic self, not the masks or performances shown on the outside.